Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Size. And I'm going to jump right into this episode. Evidently, finally, we have news that the main event between George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez, the takeover, is set to take place finally on a date. Now, the date is one that's a little controversial, and especially if you're from New York City and from the US. Apparently, they've settled upon September 11th, which everyone kind of remembers is one of the darkest days in U.S. history. A lot of people remember the September 11 attacks, and I myself was in seventh grade when they happened, and I just remember them being very, very, very sad, and just the city really is still never the same. Sure, the Freedom Tower is up, and it's been many, many years, but that date is pretty sacred. However, like with other things, you have to eventually move on. And I kind of think that this is a smart move on Triller's part. And in my opinion, I feel that Teofimo Lopez, given the fact that he's a native New Yorker, given the fact that he has a big name in New York, he's fought in New York several times, I find it very fitting that apparently they're going to fight in New York. You take and relocate the takeover from fighting in Miami, which, yes, I get Teofimo Lopez is Latino, but I didn't really feel that he is a Latin star that needs to go to Miami in order to sell tickets. Sure, at the time, it didn't really make sense to be up in the States or anywhere else because things weren't really open. But now that COVID-19 seems to be in a better situation than it was a few months back, I think it's smart to kind of relocate because I was hearing that the fight wasn't really doing well in terms of ticket sales and whatnot. But then Teofimo Lopez got COVID-19 and the entire card got scrapped. So originally, when the fight was announced, it was supposed to be Teofimo Lopez and Oscar De La Hoya on one card for Triller to kind of be a mega event. However, Oscar De La Hoya fell out and needed more time to get ready for an opponent, which at the time no one really knew who he was going to fight. They were trying to set up a fantastic matchup of old Fernando Vargas versus Oscar De La Hoya. Now, if you don't remember that fight from a long time ago, what an epic fight it was. Oscar De La Hoya had come off of losses to Shane Mosley. He completely changed his camp. No longer was he with the trainer he was with before, and he moved to the Mayweather camp. Evidently, Fernando Vargas was on a tear. He had beaten many, many fighters, and a lot of people thought that Fernando Vargas was the true Mexican warrior. And he was trained by Big G, Robert Garcia's father, and he was supposed to run through the Golden Boy. The Golden Boy was supposed to be this soft, pretty boy that couldn't really match up to the real macho Mexican that Fernando Vargas was. Hindsight 2020, you know what happens. Fernando Vargas ends up getting knocked out and stopped by the Golden Boy in one of the biggest upsets at the time. So it would have been perfect to have Teofimo Lopez to take over, fight for all the undisputed championship belts against George Kambosos, and then you have another legendary Mexican card between Oscar and Fernando Vargas. But that didn't happen. So Oscar was looking for an opponent, and little by little, you didn't really hear who he was supposed to fight. Then Evander Holyfield was supposed to step up and be on the card, but even that fight fell through, and then Teofimo Lopez was stuck with the undercard of Charles Martin and a bunch of other fighters. Sorry, not Charles Martin. Michael Hunter. So after that, the card got scrapped. People are scrambling. Why not put Oscar De La Hoya, match him up with Teofimo Lopez, and now you have a mega event. Mix in Madison Square Garden on September 11th with Teofimo Lopez, who is a hometown native of New York, and you add in Oscar De La Hoya, who is of Mexican descent. It's going to take place on the Mexican date of September 12th, the real Mexican Independence Day, if I'm not mistaken. As everyone knows, there's always two Mexican holidays. You got Cinco de Mayo, which is an American Mexican holiday, and then you have September 12th. So you match those two guys together, you put them on Triller, and I think you actually do have a very solid card that I think everyone should be excited for. In my opinion, what a move by Triller. I mean, you should have went through with the card on June 5th instead of capitulating to Floyd Mayweather, because then the things just got pushed back. But I think you could actually salvage this event, especially with Teofimo being of New York descent, growing up in Brooklyn. I think he's going to sell very, very well at the Garden. And honestly, Oscar De La Hoya, you add him to the event against Vitor Belfort, you have a really, really solid pay per view card and a very, very good venue. And I think they can actually turn a profitable event of this. I'm not going to lie to you. At first, I was a little hesitant because Triller, ever since Jake Paul departed and went to Showtime, I thought they were kind of dead in the water. You had multiple postponements in terms of fights. You had Teofimo Lopez have to reschedule several times due to Floyd Mayweather and other events. Even the Juneteenth event, if you really look back, there were so many events on Juneteenth. I don't even think I was able to watch everything. You had the Monster fight, you had Jermell Charlo fight, and you had Lomachenko. Then the following week, there were just so many boxing cards that were on, and it was just so hard to keep up. You also had Chavez Jr. and Anderson Silva. There was just so much, and now finally, I think on September 11th, you'll be able to have the event. I know Canelo is also looking to share that date, which, in my opinion, I think might happen, even though Caleb Plant and Canelo seem to be, I don't know if it's posturing or I don't know. Canelo always seems to do this, kind of wait to the last moment and then announce his fight, as he should. Canelo does what Canelo wants to do. When you're the perennial star in boxing, why would you ever wait for someone? And given the fact that he is a Mexican descent, I think no one would have an issue with him kind of claiming September 11th as well. And why not claim that date versus Caleb Plant? But based on what I know right now, you cannot speculate. Well, actually, I can speculate, but I think even if the Canelo fight happens, why not just make it a Super Bowl weekend? Right? Super Bowl of boxing. You have Canelo Alvarez, you have Teofimo Lopez in New York, different markets, put them on at different times. Just give everyone what they want to see. At this point, I do not see another fight with Teofimo Lopez and Kambosos materializing if it gets postponed again. Keep September 11th, get it over with. I think it'll be awesome for the Garden to get an event in September with Teofimo, and then in December with Teofimo and Lomachenko, which they're planning on doing their rematch. So I think it makes sense for Teofimo, Triller, get this event over with. Stop being scared. Put yourself up against other networks. Unfortunately, there are so many different boxing networks and apps and streaming websites, cable networks. You're going to have to compete at one point. And if you keep just playing the waiting game, you're going to be many, many, many months of not having the events you want to have and losing money. I know you're promising everyone here's the purse bid, oh, 6 million, this, but if they don't fight, they don't get paid. And the longer that Triller doesn't have subs and doesn't really put out events, how are they going to make money? And at this point, the way they're throwing money, I feel like they're just hemorrhaging money. And I do think that's the plan of their competitors. And right now it seems to be working. But that's the episode for today. Let me know which fights you guys are more excited about. Do you want to see that Oscar De La Hoya versus Vitor Belfort? To be honest with you, Oscar De La Hoya, I don't know if I hate or I love his Instagram because you see him training. He has himself in good shape. He seems to be very, very into himself. But at the same time, I'm happy to see the Golden Boy fight. I mean, I don't know if he has to fight for the money, given the fact that he is his own promoter. I'm not sure even how that works. But also, it might be just good publicity for Golden Boy to fight on Triller. Maybe he has some sort of exclusive, perhaps, deal with Triller, given the fact that the last deal with the Zone kind of went sour and went awry. So who knows? But I'm excited for the Triller. Teofimo Lopez, I feel, versus Kambosos in New York City is great. What do you guys think? Feel free to leave a like, sub to the channel, and I'm very, very happy to be back. I'm going to grind out a shit ton of videos, and excuse my French, but it's grind time. Going back to that old flow, putting out podcast episodes daily. I want to put out multiple episodes. The shorts are cool, and putting together videos that I like and kind of waiting is also cool, but there's so much going on in boxing. I'm just going to throw out stuff over and over. So if you're not followed, feel free to sub to the channel. Follow on Instagram at Good Boxing Podcast and leave some feedback if you disagree with me, or if you guys have any topics you want me to talk about, feel free to leave a comment on the video, send me an email, DM at Good Boxing Podcast. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day.